Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture.com. I'm Scott, I'm joined by Jules and Peter.
Hello.
And as you probably know from playing the Crash Bandicoot HD remake, it's really hard now.
Oh,
and
yes.
And so, you know, and we've been playing all weekend, we played a hell of a lot of it, and we had a little chat this morning, and a lot of other fan communities have sort of dove into like, is there something different about it? And we thought we'd just sort of address that. Because yes, there is.
There is.
And, you know, you've played a lot of Crash.
I've played a lot of Crash. I can attest to the fact that it took me a lot longer than it should have. You know, despite the fact that I'd literally been playing Crash 2 the day before the game came out, it's not just a case of, a lot of people are saying, oh, do I not remember? Is it that it was always this hard? I don't remember. No, that's not the case. It is different. Because
So let's say like break this thing down a little bit. You can kind of check this out by going on the link that we'll put in the description to one of the people who literally played the game side by side and discovered that unlike in the original games, like obviously across the different sequels, Naughty Dog refined the way Crash jumps.
Right.
The way that Vicarious Visions have put this together means that it's Crash 3's physics that carry back to the first game, which is why it feels like you jump way further. Oh, sorry, it's the same distance, but you seem to jump and land way sharper than you did before.
Yeah, there's like, you have to build up momentum for the jumps. We were talking about this earlier, like that Crash 1, you jump and you can go from a standing jump almost to full momentum when he flips his legs over. But whereas now you have to have almost a run up to get that momentum to carry you over, because I will say this, and I'm sure it will be echoed to you guys as well. The high road.
Oh, God.
My
Road
God,
to nowhere as well.
Right, this is the thing. Like on the original one, it was hard enough.
Yeah.
What with its fucking floating hogs that just defy gravity.
Yeah.
But now it's even worse because of the fact if you mess up that turtle run, as in like you just bounce up instead of going forward, you need to get all your momentum back again. It's near impossible.
the guy in that Reddit post said that with the high road in particular, it is literally impossible to get from jumping up and down to then jump some of those.
You need
gaps.
the momentum forward.
You have to do it. You have to start on the sandy bit and then bounce.
Yeah.
You can't stop and do a safety bounce.
I get that like there is some contingent of Crash fans that are way more like hardcore minded and like are up for playing such a specific game, but it feels like they've innovated in like the wrong way, and I have a few assumptions as to how that is. But
Now, see, I am of the mindset where yes, I think that it's incredibly difficult, but I'm actually glad that they have kept it consistent throughout, because I'm punishing myself and going through just Crash 1 first.
I mean, that's
and
madness.
I'm 100% it, and then move on to Crash 2. And these two have not been approving in that.
no, I've already finished Crash 3 because it's the best one.
But that's the thing, I want to do that to get used to it. And like, I know that the level design, they've kept it meticulous, like it's pretty much exactly.
Oh yeah, it's like
before. So, but it's just the physics that are wrong almost.
Well, see, that's the thing, because they recreated all the levels, and I think looking at, again, on the same Reddit post, the same guy went in and analysed the hitboxes of the levels. When Vicarious Visions have rebuilt all the levels, they've kind of not accounted for like how short you're gonna land on a certain ledge. And on the new one, you just seem to like roll off. It seems like a lot of the edges are more rounded than they were.
Well,
they don't give you the benefit of the doubt.
The issue, the problem that they had two choices, because they've got 3 games that all had different jumping mechanics. Which is an integral mechanic in a 3D platformer, right? So they had 2 choices, which was have different jumping across all 3 to match how it was before, which would have worked well because those levels and that jumping mechanic was designed for each other in each individual game. But the issue with that is new people who are coming along and trying to get to grips with Crash 1 and then moving on to Crash 2 would think, why am I now suddenly jumping different?
Maybe.
Just like choosing a different set of levels. Like, so
it's the lesser of two evils, I feel like.
I think it is, yeah.
See, but my thing is that like because those jumping physics changed, the level sets changed too, and you can't like reapply the newest set of physics with the old levels.
But it hasn't ruined the experience. Crash 1 was always balls hard.
It was hard. It wasn't like this.
It wasn't
this is
that hard.
ridiculous.
But
this is like Super Meat Boy.
This thing, you guys say it's ridiculous, but yet you both have gone through and completed.
Oh, I don't think
I
it's
cheated my way through that road to nowhere though. I just used the rope method. So did you for the first time?
I think that it's...
No, I didn't in the end.
You went back.
I checked to see if you could still do it, but I was like, that would feel...
I'll just use the ropes.
Like, I'll never defend bad game design, but I'm just saying that I don't see how else they could have done it without redesigning the levels,
No, I
which would
agree.
have probably pissed off more people.
Right.
I don't think they would have had to redesign the levels, but I think they could have had the same forgivable hitboxes on those levels, so that if you just clip the edge of a thing, it gives you the benefit of the doubt, like the Naughty Dog games did, and you just run forward as you would.
I do remember on like the original games, if say this was the ledge, you could have like Crash's the end of his sneakers sort of like there, and you'd be
like
still
half.
counting.
Exactly, yeah.
But,
whereas
like,
now you just fall off.
Like, well,
Right.
And so that kind of leads, that's another part of this, is that the way that Crash jumps, unless you're holding X, your momentum doesn't carry forward.
Yeah.
If you let go of X, you drop straight down, which is like something from like Metroid, like Super Metroid. So like that wasn't prevalent in the older ones as well. If you jump forward and let go of X, you still carried forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's that, and that's the majority of like in most platformers.
That was another challenge that they had to contend with, though, in terms of new players coming on board. I feel like certain things have been done potentially to help new people who have no idea how Crash works. So, for example, we were just talking over lunch that if you're on a side-scrolling section of Crash 1, for example, if you're bouncing on a row of boxes, while you're in the air, all you have to do is press left or right on the D-pad once. Just go bimp, and then you will move over to exactly the next box. You'll move a box's length. Now, in the old versions of Crash Bandicoot, maybe not in Warped, given that they've lifted the jumping mechanics from Warped, I don't know, but certainly Crash Bandicoot 1, you had to hold it a lot more than that to move on to the next box length.
Yeah, and you could fall back, like you wouldn't jump enough sometimes.
But now, so that caught me out initially, thinking like, okay, I'll have to hold it, and I was just overshooting and going on to like 2 boxes worth. The Crash Warped was so much easier. But as you say, the jumping mechanics are designed for Warped.
And the levels are way less meticulous. Like Crash 1 is an exercise in jump here, here, and here. And if you don't do exactly that, fuck you're going back to the start.
Right.
Whereas like 2 and 3 open that way up. Crash 3 has massive levels in terms of the platforms you're landing on.
Exactly.
And there was all that. But I mean, my whole thing with the punishing nature of it is I don't mind. Like I've been through Super Meat Boy, Ori and the Blind Forest, Dark Souls, whatever. Not necessarily Dark Souls for the point I'm going to make, but I think like Trials, for example, they should have they could have put in the option to have a checkpoint, a manual checkpoint, or some sort of instant restart mechanic, rather than have the life system that kicks you back to the start of the level. Like I don't mind grinding a bad section of a level or a hard section, but let me retry it over and over again.
The problem I have though is the restart time, as in like what I'm doing, because I'm trying to do the coloured gem runs at the moment where you can't die, but obviously if I've hit a checkpoint box, I've got to go back. So now you've got to load to come back out of the map to go straight back in there. I wish that they could have had instantaneous reloads or just a restart button.
Take me back to checkpoint.
Because they do it for the time. The time run. So why couldn't they have just done a press start, restart?
Well, so that's kind of my overall point with it, is why I think that they've done it wrong, because I don't mind them going like, well, Crash is this meticulous platformer, but then have the mechanics back that up with more solid restart.
But what you're saying is that you think that they've done Crash Bandicoot 1 wrong. The other 2 are fine.
3 feels perfect. 2 still feels a little bit off, but like 1 is the one that is for me feels the most broken.
I'll just go back to the point though of saying they had a really difficult task in terms of working out how do we design this game and how do we focus this game based on the knowledge that our audience is going to consist of probably like almost 50-50 or 60-40 of people who are playing this, remembering how it was and how they think it should still be, and these new people who may have a grounding in other 3D platformers but not Crash. And I never really like finished the point that I was making actually, but in terms of like moving from one box to the next with one tap of left or right, that seems like an intuitive control.
That's a great thing to put in.
And so that you would assume that like that's how it works. If I jump and press, I'll move on to the next one, and so that's perhaps something that was designed for new people who would be making that assumption. But the old players know that that's not how it works, and that's going to throw them off. So I think it was, in a way, there's no way they could have got this correct.
Yeah, I mean, plus, that was one of the big core questions. It was like, have they changed it up so the guys like us that have lived on this franchise have something new to get stuck into, or did they get it wrong? And so, like, I want to go with the former assumption, but then when I look at some of the hitboxes and how restrictive they are, and how like you can just rub off the end of some platforms, and like I said, the bad restart mechanics and things like that. I know that it's an emulation of an old game.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna restrict the hitboxes and restrict the platforming and make it meticulous like Super Meat Boy style, then you need to put something else in there, because you've not replicated the hitboxes of the original games. You've made it harder, but you've not changed the mechanics.
I still wouldn't go so far as to say they've done it wrong.
Maybe not wrong, but I don't know.
Made a mistake.
It's infuriating.
Oh yeah, it's like, but then again, I find that Crash 1 is the weakest of the trilogy.
Yeah.
I mean, Crash 1 does have great levels, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of times, like, whenever you're inside the temples, for example, there was always an issue with when the platforms are doing that.
Oh yeah.
There's always an issue of perspective because of the way that they've chosen to do the camera, and that's exactly how it was in the PS1 game, but Vicarious Visions had the opportunity to maybe pull the camera back a bit, maybe even lower it down so it would have made the jumps seem a bit easier to do, but they chose to keep it real. But then
again, like, if you do that, and like you say, there are practical reasons for maybe doing that, will you then get a load of hate from people saying, like, this is...
I honestly don't even think they would have noticed.
Well, do you know what? I feel like with Crash 1, certain moments I would, like, come over the crest of a... You know that bit in the first level where there's that strip of invisible boxes that you have to hit the.
Oh yes, yeah.
As I came over that crest, I was like, that is pixel perfect in terms of angle, and just there was something about that angle that I was like, that looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I felt I had numerous moments like that, and I feel like there's a certain percentage of the audience, maybe not big enough to warrant sticking with it so meticulously, but there's a certain percentage where people would have noticed that, like, you brought the camera down here.
It doesn't have to be in every part of it, but I think there are chunks, like you said in the first one, there are parts where the game is deliberately obfuscating because it's built in a trial and error mentality. Like, 90s platformers were built on trial and error, so it's like, that is a hangover from when platformers were 2D. It is an argument though, it's like, well, if you changed it too much, would it still be Crash? I would argue that yes, it would, because like a lot of people associate Crash with like just fun and having a good time, not this hardcore F you for not getting it right kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, when I booted it up, I was kind of surprised at how challenging it was, because I do remember it being hard.
Same,
but I just
not this hard.
Yeah, but not this hard, and I think for me it was. Native Fortress. I know you said you didn't have too much trouble.
Yeah, you guys
had
trouble with those two. Great Gate and Native Fortress.
Slippery Ascent.
Slippery Climb.
Slippery Climb I did in one take somehow.
Obviously,
I found it easier this time.
Obviously, the goddamn High Road.
Yeah.
They're the ones that stick out for me.
And Wild Hog is like, you have to be. Hogwild have to be pixel perfect almost to get past those natives.
Right.
And that, for me, is kind of like, I'm still having fun, but it's only fun through winning at the end. I'm not having fun doing.
That's another thing, is like you talk about like who is this for, and it's like, well, if they were cashing in on the nostalgia play, then you have a whole bunch of like casual fans who haven't played it in 20 years. Like I've granted revisited some of the ones on PS3, whereas like you have this massive swath of people, swathe of people who are going to go back to it and just want to have fun, and they're going to have that from the very first level, and then 5-6 levels in from Crash 1, they're going to hate it.
You're probably right. I mean, I think overall we wouldn't say that we in any way dislike it.
No, I still love it. Like it's still Crash, but
But
I don't know, man.
In a way, we're now veering into the argument of like just how to do a remaster and what a remaster's for, and you're faced with the issue of things like. For example, the camera angle that I recognised, would I have been angry if that had been changed? I don't know.
Not in that spot.
Some of the music has been changed, like the intro to Up the Creek used to have like a really like slow pace bit at first, where it just go dun 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 dun.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
That's a level of Crash fandom that I'm not in.
They've cut out the first like 16 bars of that track, and what it kind of, you have to ask the question, what is a remaster? Like what does that actually mean, and what does it demand?
Yeah, and I think we'll probably end up doing a separate video on it, because you've got Crash on one side, just like up-resing the textures, and you've got Final Fantasy VII on the other, completely revamping the game. Yeah. And it's like, what side do you fall on, kind of thing. For me, I like what they've done. They've maintained the base mechanic. It still feels like Crash. It's the tiniest of things. It's the jump, the feel of the jump.
But it's not a tiny thing. The jumping is.
Well, that's what I mean.
I
just mean that it's meticulous, though. Like you'd have to go side by side or have played them years ago to know the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I've been screwed out of many a jump because of what I remember and what should feel right.
The real spanner in the works is that you might argue, the reason the jumping is like this is because they wanted to keep the levels exactly as they were and keep the jumping consistent. But there are moments in there where they've gone, that was too hard, or that was too clunky, those controls, and so we're going to change those. The plane mechanics are so much better. So much better.
I'm looking forward to that.
It's good fun.
Yeah. And even just down to, this is maybe not the best example, but on one of the bit where you ride the polar bear in Crash 2, there was a bit where there's a box and then a box and then a box, and it's on ice, and you have to slide and get them. And in the PAL version of the game, because that ran at a different speed
to way harder,
like the Japanese or the US version, it was different. So the input, like the speed at which it receives your inputs, you couldn't get from there to there to there unless you did it perfect to the frame.
Oh, really?
Whereas in the other versions of the game, it was much easier to do because they ran slightly slower. I
feel like they've made like Polar's hitbox wider now as well. It's easier to get those kind of things.
Plus, so they fix things, is my point.
And they do give you like a checkpoint box. If you keep dying in the same spot, sometimes they'll just gift you a new checkpoint.
Yeah, that's the way I brought it up, is that if they have fixed like Polar's hitbox or the speed of the frame input, why have they allowed the jumping to go through in that way?
Because it's evident. Everybody who's played it.
I mean, you said I hope they patch match the jumping.
I do.
And that's the thing. It's one of the things that's like...
It doesn't have to be the jumping, because you can get used to it. You can get used to letting off X and dropping straight down. The problem is that a lot of the hitboxes are rounded. It makes you slide off everything when you're supposed to connect and keep going. And that ruins the flow of it. It kicks you back to the start, you run out of lives, you're back to the main menu. It's just annoying. Like, I just don't know who played that and went, yeah, this is cool. Like, it's just annoying. It works with Crash 2 and 3, especially 3. But 1, I got so annoyed with 1. Like,
I mean, I'll say now, I'm not so like livid about this because, as evidenced by the fact I got through Crash 1 in one sitting.
You maxed it. You were like, I've already done it.
I think I finished it on Friday night.
Jeez.
And so evidently, you know, I didn't like kill myself over it and have a terrible time, but I noticed the first thing that happened by like the 3rd level, I was like, this feels a bit weird.
Yeah.
Like, is it just me being really bad? But I've played Crash 1 recently on PS1. And I messaged Scott saying, "Oh, hey, did you manage to get a copy? Because you didn't pre-order."
Yeah.
And you said the first thing you said, you were like, "Oh yeah, I got a copy." Is the jumping broken? I was like, I'm so glad you said that because I think it is.
Because literally, I put it in, I was like humming the music, I was like, this looks amazing.
Yeah.
I jumped over the first pit and I fell in the second one. I restarted, I did it again, and again, I lost 3 times in a row, and I went, what? Like, because you have those mechanics in you, like you have the feel of it. It's like the way that Mario jumps, you can feel that.
Exactly. I think that's it. Like, I think my conclusion to this whole discussion is not that the jumping is broken or too hard.
Yeah, and I'll roll back the word broken.
Me personally, and I don't know about you guys, my issue is that it's so ingrained in me and it's muscle memory, and that is why I'm having problems with it. So I don't want to say to them, you've made a bad game or you've made a bad jumping mechanic. I just have it too ingrained inside me to get it right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Vicarious Visions, you're asking us to remember our glorious days of nostalgia. But not exactly the muscle memory that came along with it.
And I just think it's my whole thing.
It's nostalgia with exceptions.
Yeah. But it's like you've taken the Crash 3 physics and then you've applied them to this level set that wasn't built for those physics, and that is why it, to some degree, falls down. Like,
but would you have preferred 3 different, or would new players have preferred 3 different jumping mechanics?
I can't speak to the new players.
Games?
Well, guys, let us know what you think. Like, would you have preferred it if it was exactly the same all the way through? Because
personally, I would have done. I'd rather Crash 1 played like Crash 1.
It would have been interesting, to say the least. But yeah, sound off in the comments below and let us know how much you hate the high road.
Yeah, let us know how you guys got on, because like we've clearly had mixed receptions based on how much we've all played it.
Oh, but we still absolutely love the game.
Yeah, like
totally fantastic.
As a remaster, it's still phenomenal. It's probably one of the best remasters like since like the Ocarina of Time one or something.
Hands down.
But
hands down.
The high road though. I don't know if I said in our review or not, but I will let you in now on the fact that I coincidentally, just at the start of the high road, just thought, oh, I wonder how many lives I picked up as I played through this game. I had 40 lives on the head, 40 lives. I then game overed.
Yeah, me too.
I lost 40 lives, and then I got like several more game overs, and that's 5 lives apiece, right? So I must have spent like 60 lives on the high road.
Oh god,
you did it.
How do you guys have the stomach for that? Though? I mean, I've been through Souls and everything. But
I don't know.
Man.
Apparently, I love abuse. I will 100% this, and I will let you guys know as soon as I do, because you'll be able to hear it from Gateshead. Just going, yes!
Brilliant.
And on that note.
On that note, yes, you guys let us know what you think in the comments. We'll continue debating things and doing videos. I've been Scott from allculture.com.
I've been Jules.
I've been Peter.
And we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.